aside from helping parents save their sanity, but
Right.
what does the research say? What does the data say about, brain development in children and how much sleep that they need and the effects of not sleeping versus the effects of sleeping? Why do we need our kids to sleep? Where would you take your life if you knew you could not fail? I get it. As a stepmom, mom, and entrepreneur, sometimes it can feel like what everyone else expects of you versus what you dream about for yourself are on opposite ends of the spectrum. As a woman, you're taught from a very young age what society thinks you're worth based on how you look, how you behave, and how much money you're allowed to bring in. But I'm here to show you that you can be the woman who has it all, and not just on the outside. I'm Brittany Lynch, and you are the queen of your castle. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Queen of Your Castle podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Lynch, with a super duper. I'm so excited about this guest, y'all. Today on the show, we have Dana Obleman, and Dana Obleman is here to save us all, save us at bedtime. Dana is the founder of the highly acclaimed Sleep Sense program. So I'm going to let the expert talk to us all about how that program came to be and all the ways that I think I read that she's helped over 100,000 parents help their kids sleep better. And I know in our stepmom story group, this is a topic of conversation all of the time, is how do we get our kids to sleep better? And I guess specifically within the dynamics of step-family relationships. So Dana, I see that you began your practice here, your sleep private practice in Vancouver in 2003. And it looks like this came from your own struggles with your own kiddos' sleep. Drawing on your dual degrees in psychology and education to create the Sleep Sense program, which now you've helped over 100,000 parents help their kids sleep, which God bless you. God bless your soul. What a need. Thanks for coming on the show. I can't wait to hear about your program. I can't wait to hear how you came up with everything. And most of all, I can't wait for you to help me get my 3-year-old to go to down sleep at night. So thanks for being here, Dana.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat with you.
Awesome. So why don't you go back in time with me a little tiny bit so I don't feel so alone. So we don't feel so alone now that you're the sleep queen. Mm-hmm. Can you kind of let me know, what were the struggles that you were having with your own kids back before you created this program that led you to create the program that now is helping families all over the world?
Yeah, well, I had my first son back in 2002 and really knew nothing, as most parents, about his sleep needs. I just figured babies will sleep when they're tired and that'll be that. And I also had this vision that it would get better, right? Like everyone knows a newborn baby is going to be up a lot in the night. And I was totally prepared for that. But when months were going by and his sleep was getting no better than it had been from the day he was born, I started to sort of take this downward spiral, into some depression and anxiety and chronic sleep deprivation. And I kind of feel like I had my rock bottom moment, which most of my clients have, and sometimes have multiple rock bottoms before they reach out. But yeah, I just had this, like at the 6-month mark, it was kind of my breaking point. And I thought, maybe I just don't have what it takes. Like maybe I just like am missing the mom gene that lets me like put up with this. I can't do this one more night. And in that moment, I kind of made a little promise to myself that I would see if there was something I could do. Like maybe there is. I knew nothing. So why don't I go and investigate and see if I can figure something out? And so, there were some books, about sleep on the bookshelf at the time. And I read the books and I did some searching online and I kind of pulled out pieces that made sense to me, given what I know about kiddos, and put a plan in place for my son, Charlie, and just saw this huge transformation for all of us. Within a week or two, he went from being, what I would have classified as a fussy, high needs baby into this like super chill, relaxed little dude who was like happy when he was awake and was going down well for naps and night. And, I was so excited about what I'd managed to do, and how much it changed all of our lives, that I was like hell bent on telling everyone I could find, accosting strangers in the playground, to like share this great news. And I looked around and saw that there was not really anybody really helping parents one-to-one. Like you could get a few tidbits of advice here or there, but there was nobody that was really sitting down and explaining, the whys of sleep, and why this baby's not sleeping well, and what are the steps we need to take and put in place for him to transform into a good sleeper. And can you teach babies to sleep, and all that good news. And that really was the spark that was ignited from my own success and passion for helping others, that led me to start coaching parents privately.
Amazing. And I just like think that it's so important to have that one-to-one support in that moment, because there's so much literature out there on how to get your kids to sleep. But when you're a sleep deprived, exhausted new mom, or you're a mom of multiples and you're totally sleep deprived, you are bordering on depression and anxiety, like PPD and PPA, because you're so sleep deprived, the last thing you want to do, and the last thing you probably have actually the capacity to do, is sift through all of this literature and be like, okay, what specifically is the issue here? That requires a lot of cognitive function that you probably aren't going to have when you're sleep deprived. So what a relief for parents to have a resource like you and all of the coaches that you have trained to be like, okay, Jesus, take the wheel. Like, we need some help around here. We can't do it. Amazing. It sounds like sleep issues potentially begin like right from day one. Am I hearing that correctly when I make that assumption?
Yeah. People always ask me, well, how soon can you start teaching a baby to sleep well? And I think you can start right from the day one, right from day one. I mean, it's going to look a little different what we're doing with the newborn, obviously, than if we're trying to kind of fix a baby, 10, 12 months down the road. That's when they've got bad habits and we need to course correct. But when they're new, they don't have any bad habits yet. So we can just guide them down the right road. I had two babies after I started Sleep Sense, and they both were sleeping 10 hours by 10 weeks without a ton of effort from me, right? Like I just had to lay the foundation and give them opportunities to develop good skills, and keep an eye on the wake windows, and make sure that they're not getting overtired throughout the day. And it just kind of all fell into place quite beautifully when I knew what I was doing. And so a big piece of what we like to teach is just that education component. I mean, the same way you would go to a prenatal class, you learn all kinds of things there, but nobody's talking about sleep. And, people always tell me if I knew then what I know now, I would have made a lot of different decisions in those first few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to I'm going to selfishly go off course here a little bit, because because of kind of sleep issues that I noticed in my family with, my husband and my stepson, and really not great sleep habits. I know that parents always do the best that they can, and they think that leaving the TV on is a good thing because at least they're quiet and they're in their bedroom, right? Like a lot of really not awesome things from my observation. So before I had my own son, I was really intense about making sure sleep was a super duper priority. And so I read all of the books, and my son started sleeping through the night when he was like 3 months old. He was like great napper, great sleeper. And then he turned 3 and it all fell apart. And I'm asking, what happens after that stage? Is it developmental because they realize they're people and I have a say now whether or not I'm going to go to bed? Is this like a common age that that parents tend to get hung up? Or what's up? What's happening? We're tired around here.
Well, I'd love to. Yeah. So first of all, in general, yes. Even babies who are great sleepers, somewhere in the toddler years, things often fall off the tracks. Things things, fall completely apart. And parents wonder, oh gosh, how did we even get here? It just like happened like this. And now, he's up until midnight, sleeping in our bed all night and doing all kinds of random things. So it does happen. It's very, very common. But let's talk more specifically about what's going on with your little guy. Like, is he in a bed, a toddler bed, or a crib still? Or
Yeah, he's in a bed. He started crawling out of his crib when he was like 18 months. So he had to try.
okay,
He was a first a mattress on the floor. Now he's in a bed.
okay. So where is the issue showing up? Is it at bedtime or through the night?
It's early wakings, like 5 a.m. and earlier specifically is like the big issue that we have. Bedtimes are touch and go. We've had the same bedtime routine since he was like a newborn. Had the same bath book routine for his whole life. His room is like pitch black. Like it's I'm still following all the rules, but yeah, it's like him not wanting us to leave when lights out is happening after bedtime's over, and then waking up very, very ungodly early in the morning. He still sleeps all night,
Okay.
thankfully. It's just the morning wakings and the bedtime resistance that are draining on us.
So is he getting his way? Are you guys staying in there until he falls asleep?
No.
Okay. So what are you doing there? Just kind of leaving and checking on him, or?
Just like every time he gets up, like go back to bed, redirect you, I'm taking him back to bed sort of thing. Like unless he needs to go to the bathroom or whatever, but yeah. Or unless
so
he's like super upset, like please, like seems like scared or like dysregulated, then we'll go lay with him for a few minutes. But he's almost never fallen asleep with one of us beside him.
Okay, that's great, because that's a common problem, I would say, to people listening. It's a very common problem with this age group that somebody's laying down with them in order for sleep to come. And that in and of itself is not a problem, but it's the dependency that then becomes the problem. The child believes that I can't sleep unless, right, you're laying beside me, which, unless you're planning on laying there all night, is going to cause a problem down the road when he has a wake up and you're not there, and now he has to come find you and bring you back, and this can go on 2 to 5 times a night. So that would be my step number one for those parents, would be, we got to get you out of this room. We got to teach this child that they have the ability and the confidence and the independence to fall asleep on their own. So is he still napping?
Yeah, he still naps.
It's time to pull the nap.
Oh, but that's like such a nightmare because he's up so early. It's like
I
thought
know.
about this. Like he's up so early, he's like falling apart by lunchtime, and like we can barely make it to 4 or 5. But I thought that might be it.
It is it. And what tends to happen is exactly this scenario. They'll often take the nap happily and sometimes sleep 2 or 3 hours in the middle of the day. But then the problem starts at bedtime with exactly what he's doing. Lots of like game playing and coming out and calling for you and doing all this stuff. And then that drags it on. And now he's having these early morning wake ups. It really is time to pull it. So what you could do just to kind of bridge the gap is, you could start by just really minimizing it, like giving him maybe a 30-minute nap in the afternoon, and see, that could be okay. It could fix the issues within a few days. If it doesn't, then I would say we're just going to have to go cold turkey pull it. And little tricks you can use to get through that time is doing a little bit of quiet time in the afternoon, like some sort of like quiet independent play, like playing with tracks or coloring or building with blocks, or some little breather from so you both kind of go to your separate areas and he does some independent play that can help. And know that it takes about 4 weeks. It takes about 4 weeks for the body clock to adjust to the fact that there's no daytime sleep anymore. So it is touch and go. And there's going to be some days where you're pulling your hair out at 5, but you could move his bedtime earlier in the interim. So he could be down like 6:30, 7 o'clock until his body adjusts.
Okay. All right. Because we got a new baby coming, so I can only have one bad sleeper in the house at a time. That's all I'm prepared to do. So
totally. And one other tip for the early morning wakers out there, especially with this age group, get some sort of indicator that it's okay to get up, like an okay to wake up clock of some kind. There's tons on the market now. And just really start hammering that home, that your feet don't hit the floor until that clock says it's okay for you to get up. And you just have to keep returning him to his room until the clock says it's okay to get up.
Right. Just
And it works
run
great. It's one of my magic 3, I call it. But yeah, the clock works great.
Okay. We've tried it, but I've been too tired in the morning to be consistent with it. I'm like, okay, fine, just lay with me and let me go to sleep. So
Yeah, no, you've got to make it like,
okay.
it's got to be a
Not
non-negotiable.
negotiable.
Yeah.
Got it. We can do this. Excellent.
Yes.
Move on, if you don't mind. Let's move on to kind of like the next age group. Within our group, we kind of have been having a lot of conversations about what seems to be some separation anxiety in like preschoolers and early school age kids that we seem to be noticing quite a bit. Again, I'm going to assume this is developmental and kind of a standard thing that you might see frequently is separation anxiety at bedtime. If so, what are kind of some tips that our listeners who have 5 to 7 or 4 to 7 year olds, how can they help their kids not feel so anxious at bedtime?
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed that too. I think it has a lot to do with just what's going on in our world. Like, I think sometimes we forget that kids, are listening to everything that we're saying and doing and watching. And if they see you super stressed out and anxious and having like heated discussions with family members, they're going to pick up on that, right? There's no way to hide them from that. So I think with COVID and all those extra stressors happening in people's lives, like kids are picking up on it. So that's one thing. But I think, again, creating some really solid bedtime routines and boundaries. So doing some one-on-one time with your child, the lead up to bedtime, whether that's bath time and story time, or if stories are too stimulating, you could try like a simple card game or something. That carving out that one-on-one time with a parent can really help, especially if they're feeling some sort of separation anxiety. Dedicating some one-to-one time with your child is so important. And then I like to do something called the come back and check strategy. So I would say to a 5-year-old who's having anxiety, I would say, listen, I'm just going to go and start the dishwasher, and I'll come back and check on you in a couple of minutes if you are in your bed and being quiet. So that's the only way I'm coming back, is if you're cooperating. So then the parent would come back and praise the child for doing a great job. I'm just going to go make a phone call. I'll come back in a few minutes. If you're quiet and in your bed. And so you just kind of really hammer that home quite often in the first few nights, like come back every minute or two and praise the child for doing a great job. And then as the nights go on, you kind of start spacing out your comebacks a little bit longer and a little bit longer, until eventually, hopefully, this child is asleep before you come back. That can be a way to like reinforce the good behaviors, right? I'll come back and check on you if you are trying, at least you're trying to go to sleep. I'll come back. I also love rewards. I mean, I think rewards can be super helpful just to get the ball rolling around something. They don't need to last forever, but just to say, what, I see you struggling here. Let's think of some creative ways that we could reward you for, being brave and managing to get to sleep and staying in your bed all night, and have them get in on the action and what kind of things would be a reward for them if they could manage this task.
Mm-hmm. And I love that. I love that come back and check thing too, because it's like when they've got this separation anxiety, it's like, are they leaving me? Like, where are they? What are they doing? And so as much as like the reinforcement of like, oh yeah, you're doing a great job is great. It's also kind of like that reassurance for that really anxious part of the mind. That's like, where are they going? Like, okay, they're right here, right? I don't need to worry. They're right here. And then as that period extends, that trust is like built. I love that. So good.
Thank you.
I think that, I've spent a lot of time in the wormhole of like why sleep is so important. But I know that a lot of parents are not down with the research and the statistics and the specific reasons why kids need so much sleep, how much sleep that they need, the sorts of things that disrupt sleep, the impact that has on health, like in childhood and beyond. So everyone wants their kids to sleep 100 hours a night for sure, but of course it's deeper than that, right? Like sleep is so important. So Dana, could you give us like kind of your big whys, your big reasons, aside from helping parents save their sanity, but what
Right.
does the research say? What does the data say about, brain development and children and how much sleep that they need and the effects of not sleeping versus the effects of sleeping? Why do we need our kids to sleep?
Yeah. I love that question because you're right. Sometimes parents get caught up in the, oh, I'm the one being selfish because I want to sleep, right? But it's more than that. It's a gift you're giving your whole family because it's going to definitely help the child with all the big tasks that they need to accomplish in life as we start out. But you just have to look at a newborn baby and realize how important sleep is, right? Like newborn babies spend up to 20 hours in a 24-hour clock sleeping. And so obviously the brain is doing a lot of hard work during that time. And we know now that sleep basically plays an integral role in pretty much everything, like pretty much you name it, sleep plays some sort of role in that. But the big ones are definitely attention, focus. There's tons of kids in the school system who I believe are being medicated for something that's as simple as just add more hours to the night, like get them more sleep. That could solve a lot of the symptoms here. But yeah, so cognitive, developmental, physical, kids who don't sleep well tend to have a higher BMI. So there's a link there to obesity for all of us when we're not sleeping well. Their attention and focus and patient level, everything. I mean, think about when you're not sleeping well, you're irritable, you're unfocused, you're cranky, you're impulsive, you're eating sugary junk food all day long. And then just, times that by at least two for kiddos, and they're going to be feeling those effects. It affects everything. Even our mental, I mean, there's lots of research now that's saying that, schizophrenia and other like mental illness, often people who suffer from that have some sort of sleep issues as well.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure you get asked this all the time, but what role do you see phones and technology, especially with kids being given devices earlier and earlier? What role do you see that playing with the quality and quantity of little people and teen sleep too, and adult sleep, right? Everyone's sleep, I think, is affected by devices. So what's your observation that you've noticed?
Yeah, well, my rule of thumb for kids, and I carry that through to teens and adults, is at least 1 hour. And some people will need more. So that's just a starting point. But at least 1 hour before lights out, you start powering down devices. So no phones, no TV, no computer work. And you just carve out some time to power down. Like our bodies and brains need time to get our melatonin levels rising, to calm down the noise that's going on in our brain. And I don't think we pay enough attention to that. Like what actually are we consuming those few minutes before we go to bed? I mean, some people are watching the most violent show you can find on television and then wondering why, they're lying in bed for 3 hours because they can't sleep. So getting it out of your bedtime routine is so important. And even the lighting in your house, like turn off anything that's unnecessary. Sometimes it's even helpful to swap out your normal light bulbs with the light bulbs that are like painted the yellowish tinge, because that yellow light is just a little bit softer and won't interfere with your melatonin as much. But yeah, we really need to give ourselves that space, and especially adults. Most adults, the last thing they do before they turn off the light is stare at their phone, and that's like the worst thing you could do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Devices. Hey, devices. I love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Like replacing your bulbs with the yellow ones. We've been doing that in like our hallways and even our dining room. We've swapped it out for those light ones because it just feels so much less like those overhead fluorescents from from the 80s.
Yes,
It's so much easier on the eyes.
it's true.
This has been like super duper helpful. So much good stuff packed in here. Would you mind, if somebody was interested in working with you, if they're at the end of their rope with their kids on their sleep, and they were interested in the Sleep Sense program, or pairing up with one of your consultants, could you let our listeners know kind of like what could they expect? What's a part of your program? What are your coaches like? What does that process look like?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. So if you go to sleepsense.net, you'll see a few different options. We do have a do-it-yourself guide, which includes coaching videos from me. So every morning you would get a new coaching video, and that you don't have to read anything. As long as you sit down and watch those 5 to 10 minute videos every morning, you'll know exactly what you need to do for the day ahead and the night ahead. So because you're right. I think, the last thing tired mamas want to do is sit down and read a big book heavy with science. So I just cut to the chase and give you the nitty gritty of what you need to know for the day to get your little ones sleeping well. So you could do it yourself, or you might need that tender touch. You might need that person to kind of guide you and support you through the process. So you could hire one of our Sleep Sense consultants. Most of them run about a 2-week package. So it would be, taking an inventory of what's going on with your specific little one, and really digging under the hood of what is going on in this little one's days and nights. And then they put a plan together specifically for your child. And then they walk you through the whole process. So you'd have like check-in calls and emails and communicating with each other pretty much daily to make sure that everything's going the way it should, and calming your anxieties or questions or worries along the way.
Right. Amazing. A nice bit of hand holding for the exhausted parent.
Who doesn't need that, right?
Doesn't need that. Sounds amazing. Dana, is there anything else that you want to share with our listeners here today?
Yeah. One of the things I think I'd love for people to just really take to heart is that nothing needs to be grinned and bared through. You know what I mean? Like, I think sometimes as parents, we think, oh, this is like the path we chose. This is our lot in life. This is like the sacrifices we need to make for our kids. And I don't believe that. I think that there are solutions to just about every problem out there. And, if your kids aren't sleeping well and you're not sleeping well, this isn't oh, well, tough luck kind of scenario. This is a solvable problem. And it's for everyone's health and happiness. So, don't just suffer in silence. There is ways to make this situation better.
Mm-hmm. And arguably, like, I think my big fear right now with my son is like, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'll just wait this out. It's just a phase, but I don't think, like, it can't be a phase. There's something that needs to change.
Yeah.
Because sleep habits just perpetuate, right? They're habits. Sleep habits are habits, and habits are what we do over and over and over again. So I think there's also like this big misconception, me included, think of like, okay, I'll just wait it out. It's going to get better with time. And before you know it, you're exhausted and it hasn't gotten better and you don't know what to do. And yeah.
Not very many kids outgrow bad sleep habits. No, you're right.
Right. So you need sleep, mama. So let's do this thing.
Awesome.
Dana, if our listeners want to follow you on social or see what kind of good stuff you've got to offer, I know that you've got a podcast. Could you share with our listeners, what's the name of your podcast? Where is the best place to find you on social? That kind of stuff.
Sure. So the website is sleepsense.net. And you can find me. I've got a podcast called The Sleep Sense Show. And then I'm on Instagram under Sleep Sense, and on Facebook under my full name. So Dana Obleman, you can find me there on Facebook. But yeah, you can send me an email, message me, let me know what you need help with, and I'll do my best to point you in the right direction.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We'll make sure to link all of that up in the show notes. And Dana, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to cut that nap begrudgingly and
I know. It's a sad day. I know. I hear you.
But 4 a.m. wake ups are also sad days. So, I mean, we'll get through it. Hey, we'll get through it.
Yeah.
Thank you again so much for your time. It's been so great. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Dana.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much.
I wanted to let you know about a special online mini training that I'm offering for free for a limited time. It's called Peace, Love, Stepmom. And not to toot my own horn, but beep, beep, it's pretty freaking awesome. Peace, Love, Stepmom will give you the exact steps to take in order to create more harmony in your stepfamily without feeling like you have to walk on eggshells or bite your tongue or ignore your own needs just to keep the peace. Because if you are listening to this, then chances are pretty good that you know there's a big difference between not fighting and actually feeling peaceful. To enroll in Peace, Love, Stepmom and get immediate access to this incredible online course, head to peacelovestepmom.com and sign up. It's totally free. You don't want to miss it. So go to peacelovestepmom.com to enroll and get immediate access. I hope this episode got your wheels turning and showed you just how powerful you are. I would invite you to take 30 seconds and tap subscribe to this podcast. When you subscribe to the podcast, then rest assured you will never miss an episode. And in no time, spinning your wheels will be a thing of the past. Thank you for listening and subscribing. And if you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the absolute world to me if after you subscribed, you jumped on over and left me a 5-star review, and better yet, a written review. I am on a mission to let every mom and stepmom know that you can create the life of your dreams. And I need your help to change the world. The world needs us. Thank you so much for subscribing and leaving me a 5-star review. I will see you next week. For more behind the scenes action and to get really up close and personal with me and our beautiful step family, jump on over to Instagram and follow me at The Step Queen. Don't be shy, send me a DM, tag me in your posts, tag me in your stories, let me know what you're up to and what about the podcast has been blowing your mind. I cannot wait to get to know you better, and Instagram is my jam. I love you so much. I love you so much. Make it rain, girlfriend.